Picture waking up to a nightmare, your government plotting arrests before a crime even occurs. Explosive, infuriating, and utterly chilling. America's gripped by this jaw-dropping scandal. Karoline Leavitt, the fiery Trump White House mouthpiece, viciously branded Congresswoman LaMonica McIver a lawbreaker for clashing with federal officers. But a bombshell-leaked email unveils a gut-wrenching truth. This showdown was allegedly a sinister setup, orchestrated by the administration itself. Is this the most brazen power grab in history? Has justice been twisted into a ruthless political blade? Hold tight. This scorching Leavitt-McIver clash isn't just politics. It's a fight for America's soul. Washington, D.C., on a tense morning not long ago. The tension in the White House press room was thick enough to cut through with a knife. Journalists murmured anxiously as Karoline Leavitt, the young, fiery press secretary under President Trump, stepped to the podium. Her expression was cold, her eyes focused, and she wasted no time. "Today," Karoline said sharply, pausing briefly, ensuring every word sank deeply into the silence. "We witnessed an egregious assault, not just against federal agents, but against our nation's very rule of law." Cameras flashed furiously, capturing every subtle movement, every nuance of anger in her voice. "Representative LaMonica McIver," she continued, her tone dripping with controlled disdain, "is not a hero. She is not fighting for justice. She is promoting lawlessness. Violence under any political banner is still violence." She motioned abruptly to the screen behind her. Instantly, footage from an earlier protest in Newark sprang to life, grainy but unmistakable. It showed McIver amidst chaos, pushing against federal officers in front of the Delaney Hall Detention Center. The carefully edited clips looped provocatively suggestive, damning. "Is this how a lawmaker acts?" Karoline demanded, her voice rising, sharp and pointed, using her status to intimidate officers simply doing their jobs. The press room erupted. Questions flew, overlapping, desperate for clarification. Karoline raised her hand swiftly, silencing them immediately. "This administration," she declared firmly, voice echoing throughout the room, "will not tolerate violence or intimidation disguised as activism. I demand on behalf of this White House and every law-abiding citizen that Representative McIver resign immediately." The impact was immediate. Social media streams exploded. Headlines were crafted within minutes, painting McIver alternately as a villain and victim. Fox News praised Leavitt's boldness, while MSNBC questioned her motives. Public discourse fractured, fiercely dividing along partisan lines. Meanwhile, miles away in Newark, LaMonica McIver stood before a throng of her supporters, fists clenched, eyes blazing with defiance. Surrounded by protest signs demanding justice for immigrants, she faced an anxious crowd. Her voice trembled slightly, not with fear, but with barely contained anger. "They call me violent because I stand up," McIver shouted, her voice carrying through the crowd. "They call me dangerous because I speak out. Well, let them call me what they will. I will not apologize, not today, not ever, for defending human dignity." Cheers erupted instantly, a wave of defiance rolling through the streets. She pointed towards the cameras aimed at her, knowing Karoline Leavitt was watching closely. "And to those at the White House," she yelled passionately, voice vibrating with raw emotion, "you can prosecute, persecute, even silence individuals, but you cannot silence the truth." The crowd roared louder, a cacophony of rebellion echoing through Newark streets. But back in Washington, Karoline Leavitt watched impassively, her mouth curving slightly into a satisfied smirk. The stage was set. This was not merely a dispute between two politicians. This was America, 2025, where political divides weren't just sharp, they were dangerous. And this was only the beginning. Karoline Leavitt had always understood one simple rule of politics: control the narrative, and you control reality. At just 27 years old, Karoline had quickly risen to become the face of a new, uncompromising brand of Republican politics. She embodied a generation shaped by Trumpism, aggressive, media-savvy, and unapologetically conservative. Born and raised in New Hampshire, her path from campaign intern to White House press secretary had been meteoric. Her sharp rhetoric, calculated provocations, and combative style had won both admirers and fierce critics alike. To the conservative base, she was their fearless warrior, willing to fight the radical left wherever it emerged. For Karoline, Representative LaMonica McIver was the perfect adversary, a vivid symbol of everything she opposed. LaMonica McIver, 36, had grown up in the heart of Newark, New Jersey. She had seen firsthand the struggles faced by immigrant communities, minorities, and working-class families. As an outspoken Democratic congresswoman, she championed human rights, immigration reform, and police accountability. Her rise to prominence had been defined by passion and defiance, characteristics that made her a heroine among progressives and an enemy to conservatives. Her message resonated especially with young voters who saw in her a new hope, a leader unafraid of confronting injustice head-on. Two women, two radically different visions for America, each determined to shape the country in their own image. The conflict between Leavitt and McIver wasn't personal, it was ideological. It symbolized the widening chasm between America's two dominant political philosophies, a divide growing dangerously deeper each passing day. In the aftermath of Karoline Leavitt's press briefing, social media exploded. Hashtags quickly trended nationwide, #Leave Strong and Justice for McIver, illustrating just how deeply divided the nation had become. Fox News and conservative platforms rushed to elevate Leavitt's accusations, portraying McIver's actions as proof of liberal hypocrisy and radicalism. Tucker Carlson dedicated an entire segment to it, dramatically declaring, "LaMonica McIver isn't a lawmaker, she's a lawbreaker." On the opposite side, progressive networks rallied around McIver, accusing Leavitt and the Trump administration of abusing power to silence their critics. Rachel Maddow passionately criticized the White House, stating, "This isn't justice. This is a political witch hunt, a targeted attack on dissent." In Washington, politicians aligned themselves quickly. Republicans seized the opportunity to portray Democrats as lawless and unpatriotic, while Democrats vigorously defended McIver, emphasizing the necessity of speaking truth to power. Inside her Capitol Hill office, McIver watched the polarized coverage, acutely aware of the stakes. Her chief of staff entered quietly, holding a phone buzzing incessantly with calls from reporters and colleagues. "CNN wants a response. So does NBC," he said cautiously. "But Fox News, they want to debate Leavitt live tonight." McIver's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. She knew Leavitt was masterful at media confrontations, but declining would make her look weak. The silence lingered as McIver considered her options. Finally, she nodded decisively. "Tell them I'll do it." Back at the White House, Leavitt received word of McIver's acceptance. A slow, confident smile formed on her lips. She had carefully orchestrated this moment. She had planned every step meticulously, turning a small incident at a Newark immigration detention center into a referendum on political ideology itself. Leavitt looked directly into the mirror in her office, rehearsing quietly. "Congresswoman McIver, tonight, America will finally see who you truly are." Meanwhile, besides, news outlets nationwide scrambled to prepare for what was already being billed as the political showdown of the decade. America was divided, each side convinced their vision for the nation hung precariously in the balance. Tonight, it wouldn't just be Karoline Leavitt against LaMonica McIver. It would be conservatism against progressivism, law and order against human rights advocacy, the past versus the future, and America, ever more polarized, would be watching. The Newark incident didn't begin as a battle, but within hours. It had become one, on a recent morning. Representative LaMonica McIver arrived at Delaney Hall Immigration Detention Center, accompanied by fellow Democratic Representatives Rob Menendez and Bonnie Watson Coleman. Their intention was straightforward: to exercise congressional oversight following widespread complaints about inhumane treatment. It was a crisp morning, the sky clear. But tension was palpable as they approached the facility gates. Immigration activists had already gathered, chanting slogans, calling for transparency and justice. Among them was Newark Mayor Ras Baraka, an influential voice known for openly criticizing ICE operations. Federal agents guarded the entrance stoic, unmoved. Their presence was not merely symbolic. It was a clear message from the Trump administration: entry will not be easy. McIver led the delegation, showing her congressional credentials. She spoke directly to the lead officer, her tone firm yet calm. "We are here to inspect conditions at this facility, as per our Congressional Oversight Authority." The officer was curt, dismissive. "Ma'am, entry is restricted. Orders from above." Frustration flared instantly. McIver stood her ground, voice sharpening. "Restricted by whom exactly? Your orders don't supersede congressional oversight." Reporters had begun filming the exchange, capturing every tense word. Mayor Baraka stepped forward, his voice rising passionately. "This isn't about security. It's about hiding what's going on behind those walls." Suddenly, things escalated without warning. Agents moved swiftly, pushing back activists. Attempting to disperse the crowd, shouts erupted. Confusion grew. Cameras shook violently as bodies collided. Amid the chaos, a single moment, a fleeting image would become infamous. McIver pushing against a federal agent, an act some would call aggression, others defense. Within hours, edited clips flooded social media. Conservative platforms described the footage vividly. Democrat LaMonica McIver assaults federal agents. Across the political aisle, progressives countered fiercely. Federal agents violently prevent congressional oversight. LaMonica stood her ground. Facts were buried beneath ideological interpretations. Reality rapidly distorted by partisan lenses. 2 days later, the federal prosecutor's office, led by Alina Habba, a Trump loyalist, swiftly filed charges against McIver assaulting a federal officer, resisting arrest, obstruction. Each charge was serious, politically explosive. Back in Washington, Karoline Leavitt seized the narrative, turning a local confrontation into national headlines, standing confidently in front of Fox News cameras. She spoke forcefully. "This is exactly the chaos the radical left wants. Representative McIver's actions aren't bravery, they're criminal. Violence must never be excused." Hours later, McIver stood outside Newark City Hall, her voice shaking with indignation, eyes blazing with defiance, countering directly, "They arrest me not because I did anything wrong, but because we dare question their abuses. It's not assault they're worried about, it's accountability." Her supporters cheered loudly, fists raised defiantly in solidarity. As the narrative escalated, journalists sought eyewitnesses. Testimonies varied wildly, reflecting America's fractured identity. A conservative witness told CNN, "McIver started it. She deliberately shoved that officer, it's clear as day." Yet, a progressive activist, interviewed moments later, countered, "No, she was protecting peaceful protesters. They attacked first. America was now fighting over two opposing truths, but reality had ceased to matter. Only perception mattered now, two political camps, each seeing exactly what they wanted. By evening, talk shows were alight with heated debates. Twitter threads exploded with polarized views. Hashtags trended furiously. Hashtag McIver hero and #McIver must go, battling for supremacy. In Washington, an emergency session was convened among Democratic leaders. McIver joined via video, exhausted but resolute. "We have two choices," she declared firmly, addressing her party colleagues. "We either apologize and let them control the narrative, or we fight back and expose this administration for weaponizing the law against dissent." Her words resonated deeply. Democrats rallied behind her, seeing her fight as symbolic and existential struggle for their values. Across town, Republican leaders strategized differently. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell advised caution privately, warning Karoline Leavitt, "This can backfire if we overreach." But Leavitt was undeterred, energized by the confrontation, convinced America needed a clear line drawn between lawfulness and disorder. "Respectfully, Senator," Karoline said, unwavering, "America needs clarity. We either uphold law and order, or we surrender to political intimidation." McConnell fell silent, watching the young firebrand rise defiantly. He recognized the powerful allure of her message, especially among conservative voters hungry for someone bold enough to speak blunt truths. That night, America stood sharply divided. Televisions illuminated living rooms nationwide, images flickering between two fiercely opposing narratives. On one channel, LaMonica McIver was portrayed as a fearless fighter against injustice, protecting human dignity against federal abuse. On another, Karoline Leavitt appeared as a determined guardian of order, fearlessly confronting dangerous extremism threatening America's foundations. Neither woman intended to back down. Neither could afford to. And as the nation watched, gripped by this unfolding ideological drama, one fact became clear. This confrontation at Newark wasn't simply a physical clash, it was an ideological explosion, tearing further apart the already frayed fabric of American society. This was no longer a story about two individuals. It was now about two Americas, each determined, unyielding, and uncompromisingly opposed to the other. By the evening of that same day, the battle was no longer about facts, it was about media dominance. Karoline Leavitt sat comfortably in a studio at Fox News headquarters, her gaze sharp, eyes locked confidently on the camera. Host Sean Hannity leaned forward, offering her the spotlight. Karoline, your critics say you're weaponizing law enforcement against political opponents. Your response. Leavitt barely hesitated, her voice clear and firm. Sean, Democrats keep telling America they're the party of compassion. But what's compassionate about assaulting federal officers who enforce our laws? Representative McIver has made it clear she believes she's above the law. Hannity nodded approvingly, pressing further. So, you think McIver should resign immediately? Absolutely. Leavitt shot back instantly. America deserves representatives who respect law and order, not politicians who instigate violence, then hide behind activism. At the same moment, MSNBC broadcasted live from Newark, where LaMonica McIver stood defiantly beside host Rachel Maddow. Maddow spoke passionately, Representative McIver. The White House claims you encouraged violence. What's your response? McIver took a deep breath, eyes filled with both exhaustion and determination. Rachel, violence isn't what I represent. I went to Delaney Hall because human rights violations were reported, and when I spoke up, this administration attacked not just me, but anyone willing to challenge their abuses. Her voice grew stronger, resonating clearly. What America saw today wasn't about law. It was about silencing opposition. I refuse to be silent. Millions watched simultaneously on opposite sides of the political spectrum. Each woman spoke not merely as an individual, but as a spokesperson for their ideological camps, two competing visions for America's future. Social media erupted once more, deepening the divide. TikTok videos rapidly circulated, splitting narratives into short, heated exchanges. One viral clip featured Leavitt's aggressive remark, "McIver promotes chaos, not justice." Another showcased McIver's fiery retort, "They attack me because they're afraid of the truth." The nation's youth joined the ideological battle, recording emotional reactions and fierce arguments. America wasn't just watching, it was actively participating. Meanwhile, major newspapers hurriedly crafted dueling headlines for the next day's editions. The New York Times front-page headline read starkly, "Leavitt accused of weaponizing Justice Department against Democrats." In contrast, the Wall Street Journal ran a sharp editorial, "McIver's assault case reflects radicalization of Democratic lawmakers." This polarization even reached Capitol Hill, where congressional leaders reacted sharply. House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries defended McIver publicly. What happened at Delaney Hall was a symptom, not the disease. The Trump administration's tactics must stop now. But Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy countered harshly, "Democrats continually excuse violence when it suits their narrative. America won't tolerate double standards." Late that night, cable news networks switched to breaking news segments, analyzing the day's events. CNN's Anderson Cooper summarized gravely, "America is facing a dangerous ideological crossroads. Two narratives, both claiming truth. Which one the public accepts could reshape American politics for years." In Newark, McIver finished her MSNBC appearance. Stepping outside, she found herself instantly surrounded by supporters chanting her name, calling for justice. She smiled warmly, holding up her fist symbolically. Aware she had become more than just a politician, now she was a symbol of resistance. In New York, Karoline Leavitt exited the Fox News building. Cameras flashed brightly as reporters shouted questions. "Are you manipulating this crisis, Ms. Leavitt?" She paused briefly, turning with an assured, icy calm. I'm standing for law and order. If Democrats find that manipulative, then yes, I suppose I am. Leavitt's words instantly ignited social media again, reinforcing a narrative she deliberately controlled: firmness versus chaos, order versus anarchy. Two women, two voices, two profoundly opposite Americas. And in the relentless glare of media spotlight, each side hardened their positions, unwilling and unable to see common ground. The media war wasn't just shaping narratives, it was reshaping America itself. Just as the country appeared irreversibly divided, a single leaked email changed everything. Late that evening, Politico published a breaking news exclusive with a startling headline: "Leaked email suggests White House planned McIver charges before investigation." Within moments, the story ignited a firestorm. The leaked email, dated one day before the confrontation at Delaney Hall, had been sent by Karoline Leavitt to Alina Habba, acting U.S. attorney for New Jersey, who had prosecuted McIver. Its wording was chillingly direct. "We need a high-profile example to counter the Democrat narrative. McIver's protest tomorrow is our chance. Prepare the legal response now. Alina, timing is crucial." The implications were devastatingly clear. The charges against McIver were not simply reactionary, they had been orchestrated from the White House itself. Within minutes, social media platforms erupted with outrage. Leavitt Gate immediately topped Twitter trends. Furious Americans accused the White House of blatantly weaponizing the justice system for political gain. In her Washington office, Karoline Leavitt watched with a mix of shock and anger. Her phone rang incessantly, texts and calls from the chief of staff, senior advisors, even President Trump himself. She finally answered one call. Trump's voice was terse, direct. "Karoline, we're getting killed out there. Is this email real?" She hesitated, heart pounding. She knew the email was genuine, but how had it leaked? "Mr. President," she replied calmly, masking any panic. "The email was strategic, but entirely legal. They're twisting it." "Fix it, Karoline," Trump demanded sharply. "Tonight?" And across town, LaMonica McIver read the article, eyes wide in disbelief. Vindication was immediate, yet painful. She picked up the phone, calling her chief of staff. "We need a press conference now." At midnight, McIver stood before flashing cameras and eager reporters outside Newark City Hall. Her voice was steady but emotional. "What America sees now is the naked truth. This administration isn't protecting the law, they're using it as a political weapon." She paused, letting her words hang powerfully. "Tonight, I call for an immediate congressional investigation into Karoline Leavitt and the White House's direct interference in our justice system." McIver's speech went viral instantly, viewed millions of times within hours. Democratic leaders seized the opportunity aggressively. Speaker Hakeem Jeffries swiftly announced an emergency congressional inquiry. In an urgent midnight statement, Jeffries was blunt. "This isn't politics anymore. This is authoritarianism. America demands answers." Republican leaders scrambled to contain the damage. Minority Leader McCarthy tried to deflect criticism, cautiously remarking, "The email needs context, let's not rush to judgment." But America had already judged, swiftly and harshly. Late-night television erupted. Stephen Colbert joked grimly, apparently, "The White House thinks justice is something you can schedule in advance." Yet, on conservative platforms, some fought back fiercely. Tucker Carlson offered a counter-narrative. "This email shows a White House ready to protect America from radicals. McIver broke the law, period." But even some loyal conservatives appeared shaken, questioning privately, had the White House gone too far? Inside the Justice Department, acting U.S. Attorney Alina Habba was now also under fire. At 2 a.m., Habba released a defensive statement. "The email has been misinterpreted. We anticipated possible legal actions. We didn't plan them." Her explanation was met with skepticism. Reporters dug deeper, questioning her impartiality due to previous ties with Trump's inner circle. Meanwhile, McIver became an instant icon among progressives, a martyr of political persecution. Donations to her re-election campaign surged overnight. Yet, amid the fury, Karoline Leavitt remained defiant. In a hastily called 3 a.m. conference call with top advisors, she maintained firmly, "I won't apologize. That email shows foresight, not manipulation." An aide countered cautiously, But the public perception is devastating. Karoline, she responded icily, determined as ever. Perception changes, truth remains. Despite her bravado, privately Leavitt knew the damage was severe. She understood the email leak had damaged the administration's credibility immensely. In Newark, protesters grew angrier, shouting louder slogans against the administration. Streets were filled with chants demanding accountability. The narrative shifted dramatically. No longer about a scuffle, it was about democracy itself. As dawn approached, America awoke to a changed political landscape. The nation was now wrestling with profound questions. Could justice survive political warfare? Was America still a country of laws, or had it become a country of ideologies, where truth itself was flexible, negotiable, manipulable? Two women, once merely political adversaries, now embodied America's stark divide. Their clash had exposed a dangerous truth. Ideological warfare was now mainstream political strategy, and caught in the crossfire was the American public itself, angry, polarized, exhausted. The email leak had not ended the confrontation, it had deepened it profoundly. America was facing a crisis far beyond one leaked email or a single politician's reputation. Now it was about the very soul of a divided nation, standing on the precipice of deeper, more dangerous divides. And neither Karoline Leavitt nor LaMonica McIver had any intention of backing down. As a new day broke, America found itself on the brink of an ideological meltdown. Cities across the nation woke to protests already swelling in size. Newark's streets were packed with thousands demanding justice for McIver, chanting defiantly, "Truth matters, accountability now." Similar demonstrations erupted spontaneously in Washington, New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. From coast to coast, Americans were mobilizing angry, polarized, desperate for answers. Media coverage amplified these scenes relentlessly, feeding the country's deepening divide. CNN's Anderson Cooper reported soberly from Newark, summarizing the growing crisis. We're witnessing not just protests, but a national referendum on truth, justice, and power itself. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, the situation was no less intense. Inside the Capitol building, the emergency congressional inquiry was underway. Committee Chairman Adam Schiff opened sharply. "This leaked email reveals deeply troubling White House interference. We must determine how high this goes and who authorized it." Republican committee members pushed back forcefully. Representative Jim Jordan snapped defensively, "This is a political hit job against the administration. The real question is, why is the left continually defending violent behavior?" The hearing descended swiftly into partisan chaos, voices raised, accusations exchanged bitterly. Watching from her Newark office, LaMonica McIver sighed wearily. Her chief of staff stepped in quietly, offering cautious encouragement. "The entire Democratic caucus stands with you. You've become a symbol." McIver nodded, conflicted but resolute. "I never sought to be a symbol, but if that's what's needed to expose this injustice, then so be it." Across town, Karoline Leavitt faced reporters once more at the White House briefing room. Her expression firm, voice unwavering, she remained defiant. "This administration acted properly. Representative McIver incited confrontation. That email simply shows preparation, nothing more." One reporter challenged sharply. "But the email clearly suggests premeditation. Isn't that unethical?" Leavitt responded curtly, eyes flashing angrily. "The only unethical act here is a member of Congress assaulting federal officers and then playing victim." Her words again intensified public outrage. Social media exploded with reactions. Influencers, celebrities, and ordinary citizens expressed shock, fury, and confusion. Taylor Swift tweeted passionately, "Using justice as a political tool, America deserves better. Had justice for McIver." In contrast, conservative commentator Candace Owens responded fiercely, "McIver broke the law, full stop. Why is this even a debate? Stand with Leavitt." University campuses nationwide quickly became battlegrounds. Students debated furiously in lecture halls, classrooms, and dorms, clashing bitterly over what it truly meant to uphold justice. At UCLA, an angry debate went viral overnight. One student shouted emotionally, If the White House can use the law against political enemies, how can any of us trust democracy? His opponent replied heatedly. But if lawmakers ignore laws they dislike, what kind of country will we have? The exchange was emblematic of America's profound split. At Harvard Law, professors urgently organized a public seminar titled, "Is Justice Now Political Warfare?" Thousands watched online, searching desperately for clarity, but finding only more questions. Late in the day, former President Barack Obama issued a rare public statement, cautioning gravely, "This dangerous polarization threatens our democracy itself. When justice is viewed as a partisan weapon, all Americans lose." And yet, former President Trump immediately responded, equally emphatically, "Democrats are weaponizing victimhood to avoid accountability." Karoline Leavitt acted courageously. "We must stand firm." The day closed with a nation divided, exhausted, uncertain. As night fell once again over America, millions lay awake, anxiously contemplating. Had their nation crossed an irreversible line? Was there a way back to reason, unity, or at least understanding? Or was America destined to remain trapped, endlessly spiraling deeper into political warfare where truth no longer mattered? Only power did two politicians, one leaked email, and a deeply fractured nation. America stood at the edge, staring down into the abyss, and no one knew what tomorrow would bring. Late in the evening, as tension refused to fade, America remained gripped by uncertainty. Political fractures, ideological divides, and bitter accusations had left the nation exhausted, yet fiercely attentive. Later that night, Karoline Leavitt stood once again before the cameras in the White House briefing room. Her voice was steady, resolute, unrepentant. Today, America witnessed political theater. Democrats prefer distractions over accountability. We will not be intimidated. This administration will uphold law and order, period. Her words echoed powerfully across conservative media, galvanizing supporters who rallied to her unyielding stance almost simultaneously in Newark. LaMonica McIver addressed thousands gathered in the streets. Her voice was emotional, impassioned, yet firm. "Tonight isn't about me, it's about you, about our right to question injustice, about the right to hold power accountable. We will not surrender that right, ever." The crowd roared back their support, energized, determined, vowing to continue their fight. Two women, one conservative, one progressive, standing as symbols of entirely different visions for America's future. At home, citizens watched their screens, silently choosing sides. Family members argued across dinner tables. Friends stopped speaking. Neighborhoods became divided. Signs placed defiantly on front lawns, "Justice for McIver" or "Stand with Leavitt." It was no longer merely about politics. It had become deeply personal, an existential struggle for America's identity itself. Commentators spoke urgently on nightly news, cautioning, "This conflict isn't just about two politicians anymore, it's about what kind of country America wants to be." As midnight approached, a single, powerful image spread rapidly online, posted anonymously. It depicted the Statue of Liberty split into two halves, each side representing vastly different ideals. The caption simply read, "A nation divided cannot stand. By dawn, the future remained uncertain." LaMonica McIver vowed publicly to continue fighting in Congress, promising further investigations, reform legislation, and a relentless pursuit of justice. "We've uncovered an ugly truth. Now, we must ensure it never happens again." Karoline Leavitt showed no signs of retreating. She hinted cryptically at future plans, sparking speculation of higher political ambitions. Her final public statement before dawn was stark and direct. "America is at a crossroads. Either we choose order or we surrender to chaos. That choice is yours." As the sun rose, newspapers across the nation carried dueling headlines. The New York Times, "Nation in Crisis, Can American Democracy Survive? Ideological Warfare." The Wall Street Journal, "A Fight for America's Sole Law and Order or Political Anarchy." America stood sharply divided, facing an uncertain future. Two women, two visions, one nation's destiny hanging precariously between them. In homes, workplaces, and schools nationwide, Americans grappled painfully with questions they couldn't yet answer. Who represented the real America? Could unity be possible again, or had division become permanent? The answers remained unclear, but one truth was undeniable. America had changed profoundly. It would never again be the same. This wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. And now, only the American people could determine where the story went next.